Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times News Podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes. To keep in touch with us, use our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, which are all at Q and Review. That's CUEANDREVIEW. Or get in touch via information@qandreview.com. That's information at CUEANDREVIEW.com. Please like and share our podcast and give us any constructive feedback.
From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 1st of March 2022, from the news section. Glasgow's new Archbishop shuns grand mansion for small parish home, by Carolyn Wilson. As the new leader of Scotland's largest Catholic community, he could easily be enjoying life in an opulent residence set aside for a man in his position. However, just like Pope Francis, Archbishop William Nolan has eschewed the grander property favoured by his predecessors for a more modest abode. The 68-year-old said he would not be setting up home in the plush Glasgow mansion, which was previously occupied by Archbishop Philip Tartaglia before his death in January last year. Instead of moving to the Archbishop's house on St Andrew's Drive near Bellahouston Park, he will live in the parish house at St Patrick's Church in Anderston. Explaining his decision, he said the mansion was lovely but too big, and said living in the smaller property would allow him to be near parishioners and get some daily exercise. He said, "I wanted to live within walking distance of the cathedral and the diocesan offices. When I was Bishop of Galloway, I lived in the flat above the office in Ayr, and I used to try to walk for an hour every day to give myself some exercise. I felt that the Archbishop's house, while lovely, was too big for me, and I don't want to feel isolated and waste time being stuck in traffic every day. So I have decided to live at the parish house of St Patrick's in Anderston, where I can be near to people and walk to the cathedral and my new office." Pope Francis has also opted for a more modest lifestyle than his predecessors. When he was elected, he went against Vatican tradition by choosing not to live in the opulent apostolic apartments. Instead, he lives in the Casa Santa Marta, a Vatican residence that houses visiting clergy and non-clergy members. On the day that he was introduced to the masses as the new pope, he declined to ride in the Popemobile, a custom-made Benz which has a white leather interior with gold trim and a white leather turret that can be raised by hydraulic lift, saying, "I'll just ride on the bus." The papal leader has also made headlines by choosing a 30-year-old white Renault 4 as his mode of transport. Although he later purchased another vehicle, he then raffled it off to raise funds for the poor. Whereas Benedict XVI favoured red loafers and ermine-lined cloaks, he wore simple black shoes and an ordinary wristwatch with a black band to his first Mass as pontiff. Closer to home in 2014, the new Bishop of Paisley shunned a more comfortable address to move into a parish house in a housing scheme in an area of multiple deprivation. Bishop John Keenan, who grew up in a high-rise in Glasgow's Mary Hill, said the Catholic Church was going through a cultural shift and would have to adapt and change in order to be close to the people of our times. His first move as the new Bishop of Paisley saw him decline to take up the detached sandstone villa in the town, in Renfrewshire, used by his predecessors, and move instead to a church property in Greenock's East End. It came on the back of criticism within the Catholic Church of the manner in which many senior clergy live, with former Bishop of Motherwell, Joe Devine, attracting controversy in 2008 for demolishing his home to build a new residence at an estimated cost of £650,000. That article was by Carolyn Wilson. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 1st of March 2022, from the news section. Josh McDowell, teen missing from near Glasgow could be in the city centre, by Esther Tarney. Police are searching for a teen who went missing near Glasgow yesterday. Josh McDowell was last seen at his address in Erskine around 8 a.m. on Monday, February the 28th. He has been missing since, and concerns are growing for his welfare. The 15-year-old is described as white, 5 foot 8 inches tall, slim build with short brown hair. He is believed to be wearing a black French Connection jacket, royal blue Lacoste tracksuit bottoms and black Nike trainers. It is believed he might have travelled to Glasgow city centre, Paisley or Greenock by bus or train. Police officers are appealing to the public to call if they have seen him since this time or who have any information which could be relevant. Anyone can contact Police Scotland via 101, quoting incident number 2362 of February the 28th. This article was by Esther Tarney. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 1st of March 2022, from the news section. King's Theatre Glasgow, major update on COVID rules, by Esther Tarney. Glasgow's King's Theatre has announced its new COVID rules. The venue published the update on their Facebook page. In it, they announced that patrons will no longer be required to provide their COVID status. However, masks will remain compulsory. The Post says, "As we navigate our way back to normal, we wanted to let you know that our COVID rules have changed. In line with Scottish Government guidance, patrons will no longer have to provide their COVID status. Mask wearing will remain in the auditorium, even while watching the show, unless eating or drinking. We can assure you that we will always make your visit as COVID safe as possible, with strict cleaning regimes, risk assessments, ventilation and arrival time management. Thank you for your continued support and understanding." That article was by Esther Tarney.
From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 25th of February 2022, from the news section. Drunk Rutherglen drug dealer puts 1,000 Valium through wrong door. An exclusive by Catriona Stewart. A drunk drug dealer put 1,000 street Valium tablets through the wrong letterbox and terrified a woman as he tried to get them back. Glasgow Sheriff Court heard that Edward McAvoy wanted rid of the tablets, so decided to offload them to a friend. But he put them through the wrong door and then couldn't remember where he had posted them. The Deputy Fiscal told the court that around 6 p.m. on December the 11th, 2020, a woman was in her home with her 8-year-old son. She went to the front door and found an envelope had been placed through the letterbox. It was unaddressed and had no writing on it, but it was bulging and the sides had burst open. It was full of white tablets, so she phoned the police. At 10:55 a.m. on the following day, she was again at home with her son when she became aware of a chapping on her letterbox. This was later identified to be McAvoy. From CCTV, it was established that he'd been looking into letterboxes for a long period of time and had been looking inside the property. The chapping became more forceful, but there was no shouting through the door. It became apparent the same male was chapping other doors around her property, and this went on for around 40 minutes. Ms. McCulloch looked through her peephole and saw the accused in the close of the property. A second male had joined him and both seemed to be knocking on doors. It seemed, the court was told, they were both drunk. The prosecutor said, "This put Ms. McCulloch in a great deal of fear and alarm." On hearing police silence, McAvoy, from Rutherglen, and the man accompanying him disappeared from the door. Officers attended, but no persons were found, but tablets were seized and statements made. The envelope contained around 1,000 tablets. McAvoy, 37, was later detected and was arrested under the Misuse of Drugs Act. He was later interviewed and declined access to a solicitor. He said that he had a Valium habit and delivered drugs to a friend, but put them through the wrong door. His defence brief said, "This is a rather unusual case. To stop him taking the drugs, he decided to give them to a friend, but he put them through the wrong door the day after, and that was him scrabbling around trying to find them. He appreciates the danger if the neighbour hadn't found the drugs and there was a child in the house." The lawyer told the court his client's last offence was 17 years ago. Sheriff Emil Elfalna said, "This was a large amount of drugs, and it is incredibly irresponsible for you to have them in the first place, and then to put them through the letterbox in the way you did. It is not an excuse that you were under the influence of alcohol at the time." As a direct alternative to custody, McAvoy was placed in a community payback order and told to carry out 120 hours of unpaid work. And that article was an exclusive by Catriona Stewart. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 25th of February 2022, from the news section, Glasgow petition call to name new bridge after Billy Connolly, by Assistant News Editor Deborah Anderson. A petition has been launched calling for Glasgow's new bridge to be named in honour of Sir Billy Connolly. Work is underway on the £29.5 million Govan to Partick, and now calls have been made for it to be named the Big Ian Bridge. More than 600 people have already signed the petition which urges Glasgow City Council to consider the move. Last November, Glasgow City Council awarded a contract to build a new footbridge between Pointhouse Quay in Partick and Water Row in Govan. The bridge is due to be completed by 2023. The petition on the change.org website said, was his formative years spent in Stuartville Street and at St Peter's Primary north of the river before attending St Giles Secondary, commuting from Drumchapel no less, and becoming an apprentice at Alexander Stevens south of the river. There can surely be no more fitting name than entitling this bridge after the legendary Sir Billy Connolly. With the Big Ian suffering from Parkinson's disease, such a tribute within his lifetime linking two areas of the city so indelibly connected with one of Glasgow's and Scotland's most beloved sons would be no more than the great figure deserves. Farrens Construction Limited were awarded the contract, which is part of the Glasgow City Region City deal. The £29.5 million project includes the construction of a new pedestrian/cycle bridge over the River Clyde between Waterrow in Govan and Pointhouse Quay in Partick, a connection that will re-establish a historic link between the two areas. The bridge will be economically, environmentally and socially important as it will create a link between communities, visitor attractions and institutions of national economic importance, and is a key part of the active travel route between the University of Glasgow's campus at Gilmore Hill and the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. And that article was by Deborah Anderson. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 25th of February 2022, from the news section, man dodges jail following assault on Maryhill shopkeeper. An exclusive by Catriona Stewart. A man who battered a shopkeeper in an unprovoked attack is now barred from entering general stores for the next 18 months. John Byers was told by a sheriff he was lucky he was not going to jail following the assault. Glasgow Sheriff Court heard how, at 7:30am on May the 14th, 2020, the victim, Akbar Mohammed, was walking to his workplace on Maryhill Road. The 63-year-old arrived outside his shop to open up for the day when Byers spotted him and asked him for £5. Mr. Mohammed told Byers he wasn't opening the shop for another 15 minutes, and he left. But Byers, from Maryhill, returned moments later, entered the premises and asked the shopkeeper if he was working alone. Mr. Mohammed, the court was told, felt threatened by the question and asked Byers to leave, but he became increasingly aggressive. The shopkeeper took hold of his arm and tried to usher him towards the door, telling him he didn't want any trouble. When Mr. Mohammed turned his back on Byers and started walking towards his phone, Byers started punching him in the head, the body and to his face. Byers appeared to then back off, making his way to the door, but he then about turned and followed Mr. Mohammed, who was trying to leave by another door, and continued to violently punch him. At that point the man tried to fight back, however this only aggravated Byers further, and he punched the victim until he fell to the ground. After a few moments he backed off and left the store. Police were called and saw the victim had an injury to the back of his head, was bleeding and disorientated. An ambulance was called. Byers was traced and, prior to be placed in the police car, was asked if he had any sharp objects on him. Although he said no, cops found a dart in his left trouser pocket. Byers' defence lawyer said he took umbrage at comments made by the shopkeepers trying to usher him out. He does express remorse, deeply and rightly so. It is almost 21 months since the offence and he has nothing else outstanding. In relation to the dart, the lawyer said his client had a dartboard in his house and he had forgotten he was carrying it. He was also under the influence of Valium at the time. Sheriff Emil Lafala said, Your conduct was appalling. The complainer was going on about his business and you subjected him to what can only be described as a violent assault. It must have been very traumatic and terrifying for him. You were in possession of a sharp object that you could have used as a weapon. Your record is disgraceful. It has elements of weapons and violence. She added, but the saving grace, if there can be one, is that you have been out of trouble since October 2013. I am persuaded just, and it was a very near thing, to deal with this matter short of custody. You can consider yourself lucky you are not going to prison today. Byers was placed in a community payback order with 18 months supervision and was told to carry out 234 hours of unpaid work. The 39-year-old was tagged for 163 days, keeping him at home from 7pm to 7am and given an 18 months non-harassment order to stay away from his victim. Byers is also banned from entering general stores for 18 months. And the article was an exclusive by Catriona Stewart.
This article is from The National, date 25th February 2022, from the news section. Champions League final moved from Russia to Paris, by Emilia Kettle. Paris will now be the host city for the 2022 Champions League final after Russia was stripped of the match following the nation's invasion of Ukraine. The final match of Europe's most popular club competition was set to take place in St. Petersburg on Saturday, May 28th. But following a meeting on Friday, UEFA confirmed the match would no longer be held at the Gazprom Arena. Now, the European football governing body has made the decision to instead hold the match at the Stade de France in Paris. In a statement released by the football body, they wanted to express their thanks and appreciation to the French Republic President Emmanuel Macron for his personal support and commitment to have European club football's most prestigious game moved to France at the time of unparalleled crisis. They added, together with the French government, UEFA will fully support multi-stakeholder efforts to ensure the provision of rescue for football players and their families in Ukraine who face dire human suffering, destruction and displacement. UEFA also said they have decided that Russian and Ukrainian clubs and nations teams competing in the UEFA competitions will be required to play their home matches at neutral venues until further notice. That article was by Emilia Kettle. This article is from The National, date 25th February 2022, from the Culture section. Edinburgh Science Festival reveals its programme of events for Easter, by Jane MacLeod. Europe's biggest science festival has revealed its programme of events for the upcoming Easter holidays. To mark the 75th anniversary of Edinburgh becoming the world's leading festival city by becoming the first of its kind, the Science Festival has announced an exciting programme of exhibitions as well as science playground, workshops and big ideas discussions, among much more. The festival is for curious minds of all ages and takes place in and around the capital from April 9th to 24th. It is the first of the biggest Edinburgh festivals to take place this year, in what organisers are calling a year of transition and recovery. With Revolutions as its 2022 theme, the festival celebrates 50 years since James Lovelock first referred to his revolutionary Gaia hypothesis in print, drawing public attention to the interconnectedness of the delicate ecological cycles essential to sustaining life on Earth. Focusing on revolutionary approaches to everything from personal to planetary health, and with an unashamed emphasis on the urgency of tackling the climate crisis, the 2022 event will explore life forms, life cycles, revolutionary ideas, and solutions to global challenges, accompanied by a heartfelt call for a shift in attitudes and behaviours to combat the climate crisis and protect the delicately interconnected life cycles and biodiversity of our planet. Edinburgh Science Festival's creative director Amanda Tyndall said, "We are delighted and excited to be getting back to what we love, delivering live events that bring people together for a world of new experiences in the name of science. We encourage everyone to join us this April for a thoughtful yet joyful celebration of the role that science and festivals play in our lives, sharing the joy of discovery, celebrating the human spirit, and shedding fresh light on the key issues shaping our future, and let the good times roll." The festival is spread across 13 venues, including a new sociable science mini-hub at Assembly Roxy, and more than a half of its programme is free. Cirrus Logic returns as headline sponsor with matched funding from Culture and Business Fund Scotland. More than 50% of the speakers at the festival are women and include experts such as conservationist and 2022 Edinburgh Medal recipient Dr. Gladys Kalema-Zikusoka, anthropologist and best-selling author Victoria Finlay, and environmental journalist Gaia Vince. Festival highlights include the City Arts Centre, 5 floors of hands-on science for children as young as 3. It offers a world-class range of bookable and drop-in activities and workshops. Also taking place is Datasphere at the National Museum of Scotland, which takes a closer look at the power of big data. From personal data to smart cities and global environmental monitoring, this free, interactive exhibition explores the potential for data to make our lives easier, while not shying away from looking at some of the potential pitfalls. Consumed on the Mound Precinct, meanwhile, is a free, outdoor, interactive exhibition that shines a light on our ever-increasing need for stuff and how it affects the planet that we inhabit. That article was by Jane MacLeod. This article is from the Glasgow Times, date 25th February 2022, from the News section. Glasgow City Network Vision, every home within 800 metres from a cycle lane, by Stuart Patterson. No home will be more than half a mile away from a segregated cycle route under new plans approved for Glasgow's streets. It was approved to add around 160 miles of high-quality cycleways and improved footways along main roads in Glasgow in the new city network of active travel. That's the same distance as Glasgow to Aberdeen. The city network vision is to see active travel become the first choice for everyday journeys. The council said it will be designed to ensure easy access to safe, segregated routes from homes, schools, key amenities and cultural destinations throughout the city. The plan is for schools to be within 400 metres or a quarter of a mile of the main active travel routes, while no home is more than 800 metres or half a mile from segregated cycling infrastructure. The network will build on segregated routes already established, including the South City Way and West City Way, and Garscube Road, connecting Woodside and the city centre's Avenues project. The ultimate aim is to ensure anyone who cycles will be able to reach most of the city within 30 minutes and almost all of the city within an hour. The strategy also emphasises the needs for pavements to support walking and wheeling by removing barriers like street clutter, but also ensuring infrastructure such as pedestrian crossings and dropped curbs are in place wherever necessary. Anna Richardson, City Convener for Sustainability and Carbon Reduction, said, "This is a huge step forward for active travel in Glasgow. Active travel must be an integral part of the city's efforts to reduce transport-related carbon emissions. We now have a very clear way forward to increase the number of people who regard walking, wheeling or cycling as their first choice for everyday journeys. Safety is the number one reason for people being discouraged from using active travel, and in particular cycling. by having an active travel network of safe, segregated infrastructure that is easily accessible to every home and school across the city, we can provide a viable alternative for the millions of car journeys that are less than 3 kilometres. Reducing our reliance on private vehicles and encouraging a shift to the most sustainable forms of transport can make a major contribution to Glasgow's effort to tackle climate change. That article was by Stuart Patterson. This article is from the Glasgow Times, date 25th February 2022, from the Lifestyle section. Paolo Nutini visits the Queen's Park Cafe Bar on Glasgow's Victoria Road, by Sarah Campbell. Staff and customers at a Victoria Road pub were shocked yesterday when a talented Paisley singer popped in for a pint. Local legend Paolo Nutini has stepped away back from the music scene in recent years and is known for keeping a relatively low profile. However, he is occasionally spotted in his hometown and in and around Glasgow. This time he chose to visit the Queen's Park Cafe in the city's south side. He's pictured smiling with 2 delighted pubgoers in a photo posted by Queen's Park Cafe on Facebook. A member of the team said simply, "Paolo Nutini visited us tonight." Avid Nutini fans have had a harder time keeping their cool in the comments, with many expressing their disappointment at having missed him. One said, "It's no fair, I really wanted to meet that handsome man." Another added, "Wow, lucky you." Fortunately, they won't have long to wait to see the Last Request singer in person, as he's set to play at this year's Transmit Festival on Glasgow Green. That article was by Sarah Campbell.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Bike for Good launches crowdfunding amid cost of living crisis. An article written by Sarah Paccheroni, multimedia journalist. A beloved Glasgow charity is appealing for donations as inflation and rising costs are threatening its very existence, bosses said. Bike for Good is crowdfunding to help keep its operations going, as a recent hike in the cost of essentials like rent and utilities means the organisation is now financially insecure. The charity, which has 2 hubs in the West End and the south side of the city, says it's recently seen its property costs rise by 55%, while overhead and admin costs were up by 22%. Bosses say they might have to scale back on the services they offer and even take out loans if funders don't agree to relocate grants to basic expenses. Founder and CEO Gregory Kinsman-Chauvet said the charity could be in danger. We're recovering from COVID, our reserves are depleted. Now we have all these rising costs and we're so low on cash, so we're restricted to paying the essentials like utilities and salaries. Faria Saeed, Bike for Good's communications lead, added, "We're planning to strip back on certain services. We're going to have to re-evaluate all the different things that we're doing and look at what potentially could go, because we're not going to have the capacity to keep going." Like many other charities, Bike for Good has seen a huge spike in demand for services post-lockdown as more Glaswegians turned to active travel. However, it might not be able to meet it. Mr. Kinsman-Chauvet said, "People are struggling. They can't afford to buy a car. Their health is maybe not so good, so they want to exercise. They might avoid public transport because of COVID, so they want bikes. But we can't fulfill the demand in these conditions, and when we're going to review some of the services, it will be even more difficult." Bike for Good offers popular services like a discounted Next Bike membership for people with low or no income and the cycle repair scheme, which gives people a 50% discount on the cost of their repair. However, they might not be able to accommodate these in the future. The charity was low on funds during lockdown and is still trying to make up for losses. Ms. Saeed said, "We weren't able to run some of the services that do generate money for us. We had to change or redirect a lot of what we did, even our bike sales. We used to sell bikes pretty much every day of the week that we were open, and then we had to change it to just on Saturdays. So we're sort of catching up as well, and with the rising costs it's been a bit of a nightmare." The way funds are allocated means the money can only be used to cover certain expenses. Ms. Saeed added, "It's very often the case that the money they're giving us is just to run our projects. But the situation we're in is, how do we do that if our basic needs aren't being met at the moment? The organisation had launched a fundraiser in 2020 when it was first forced to close due to the pandemic. Thanks to the generosity of Glaswegians, it was able to stay afloat until it was recognised as an essential business and allowed to reopen. It's now running a COVID recovery winter appeal to meet basic costs and to keep services up and running. An article written by Sarah Pacciaroni. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Football fans involved in a disturbance in Glasgow's south side. An article written by Lauren Brownlee, senior reporter. Football fans were involved in a large disturbance in Glasgow's south side yesterday. A video posted on social media shows the supporters in Govan surrounded by several police officers at around 2:30 p.m. In the footage, a bus nearly ploughs into police and a fan who was seen on the ground. During the incident, before the Rangers vs Motherwell match, a missile was thrown, resulting in the sunroof of a police van smashing. Meanwhile, 2 officers were left injured after sustaining cuts. 1 arrest was made. The 23-year-old man was charged and will appear in court at a later date. An investigation is ongoing. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, February the 27th, police were called to a disturbance at Govan Cross. A 23-year-old man was arrested and charged following the incident. He was released on an undertaking to appear in court at a later date. During the disturbance, a police van was damaged after a missile was thrown at the vehicle, resulting in the sunroof smashing. 1 male and 1 female officer sustained minor cuts as a result. Inquiries into the incident are ongoing. An article written by Lauren Brownlee. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Union boss calls for council to sell painting to foot Glasgow equal pay bill. An article written by Lauren Gilmore, Facebook community reporter. A trade union boss has called for a masterpiece to be sold to meet Glasgow's equal pay bill. General Secretary of the GMB, Gary Smith, said that council chiefs could raise £60 million by selling Christ of St John on the Cross by Salvador Dali in Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum, reports the Daily Record. Mr Smith told the Record the council's residual equal pay liability is getting bigger by the day, and the final bill will probably run into hundreds of millions once again. If the council really thinks it can fix this alone, then it had better start making plans to flog the Dali painting, because there's no way this discrimination is going to be paid for off the back of hard-pressed workers in a cost-of-living crisis. The priceless painting brings tourists to the West End Museum and is one of the most valuable paintings in the city's collection. An equal pay deal worth £500 million was agreed between unions and the council in 2019, but unions say that a new grading system has not yet been implemented and claim that discrimination against predominantly female workers remains. Mr Smith says unions have urged council chiefs to ask the Scottish Government for financial support in covering the cost of the hefty bill. But not everyone backs Mr Smith's idea. Green Party councillor Martha Wardrop said the party will not resort to flogging off the city's cultural assets. She said, "The process of settling Labour's unequal pay legacy must remain a priority, whoever forms Glasgow's administration after May's elections. Green councillors will work for a fast and fair settlement, but we will not resort to flogging off the city's cultural assets to do that. We'll keep pressing for the funding and powers councils need to invest in local services and pay workers well." A spokesperson for Glasgow City Council told the Daily Record, "We're negotiating with trade unions and others representing claimants. We'll only know the cost of settling claims once we have a deal, and that will determine any financial strategy." An article written by Lauren Gilmore. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Janie Godley talks about her mental health in a chemotherapy update. An article written by Esther Tarnay, reporter. Comedian Janie Godley has shared an update on her mental health after the first week of her chemotherapy. In a video she uploaded to Twitter, she revealed that she's struggling with her mental health and her hair has fallen out. The Glasgow Star added that she knows she will look back on this update one day and will no longer feel this way. Speaking to the camera wearing a big jumper and a hat, she described her mental struggles. She also said the rest of her hair is falling out. After last week, she and her husband shaved it. Lastly, she thanked her fans for their love and support. She said, "I hope you're all well. I've had a couple of tough days, first week of chemo. Everybody seems to think the first week of chemo is a good week. They're on steroids, high as a kite. They get to do things, but I'm the opposite. I've been sleeping for 20 or 21 hours a day, being really low, trying to find ways to get out of my really deep funk, and it's affected my mental health really badly. Sometimes I just lie and I can't eat, can't sleep, can't get a word out of my head. I'm really anxious. But you guys have been there, picking me up and listening to me. That's been really important for me as well. I just wanted to document this because there will be a time when I look back on this and I won't feel like this. My hair's all coming out, so that's good. I'm getting to where I want to be with that. But most importantly, I just want to thank everyone for all your support and all your help and all your strength." An article written by Esther Tarnay. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Man caught dealing cocaine from Mount Vernon property. An exclusive article written by Katrina Stewart, columnist and reporter. A man caught dealing cocaine to friends and workmates dodged jail after turning his life around. Craig McGovern was collared by police at his Mount Vernon home when officers acting on a search warrant found Class A drugs. Glasgow Sheriff Court heard how the warrant had been issued on February the 25th last year, and officers searched McGovern's property the next day. They found several polythene bags containing white powder that tested positive for cocaine and scales. They also found a quantity of hash. The court heard the cocaine was worth £1,200 and weighed 62.9 grams in total. Mr McGovern was taken to Coatbridge police station, and while on the way there he told officers, "I want to help you guys. I only sell to friends and workmates." His defence lawyer told the court Mr McGovern is 27 with no previous convictions, but he has now committed an offence at the top level. Sheriff Amal El Fala said, "This is an extremely serious offence and you've been caught in the supply of a fairly large amount of Class A drugs to the value of £1,200. You have no previous convictions and are in full-time employment, and you have taken steps to turn your life around. I'm persuaded in the circumstances I can deal with this by way of a direct alternative to custody." Mr McGovern was placed on a community payback order and told to carry out 180 hours of unpaid work, reduced from 240 hours thanks to his guilty plea. He was tagged for 30 weeks, keeping him at home from 7 p.m. to 6:30 a.m, and he will be under supervision for 12 months. An exclusive article written by Katrina Stewart. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Motorcyclist flung into the air after being hit by Glasgow hospitality manager on a night out. An exclusive front-page article by Lauren Brownlee, senior reporter. A driver who hit a motorcyclist, causing him to be flung into the air, got out of his car and apologised, then got back into his car and drove away. Jamie McCann, 32, was behind the wheel of his BMW when the accident took place on St Vincent Street in the early hours of June the 13th, 2021. The general manager, who works for a brewery, appeared in Glasgow Sheriff Court for sentencing after previously pleading guilty to failing to stop after the collision and failing to provide a sample of breath at Cathcart Police Station. Procurator Fiscal Depute Jessica McGowan said the motorcyclist observed the accused driving his vehicle at speed behind him. The accused thereafter collided with the man's motorcycle, flinging him into the air. At the time, the accused got out of his vehicle and was extremely apologetic to the gentleman. He then got into the driver's seat of his BMW and drove off. The motorcyclist noted Mr McCann's registration number and contacted police. When they arrived, they carried out checks and attended Mr McCann's home in Bridgeton. They were granted access, and due to their observations, he was required to provide a sample of breath, which failed. He was taken to Cathcart Police Station at 4 o'clock in the morning. Ms McGowan added, in the police office he was unable to provide a sample of breath. Officers informed the View that he was not making full attempts to blow. He was blowing, but a sufficient sample was not taken. 3 attempts were offered, none were successful. He was cautioned and charged. His reply was, "Yes, I tried." He was kept in custody until sober and then released to appear in court. Sheriff Patricia Price said he got into the car and drove after drinking with his workmates. Mr McCann's lawyer explained that his client has always been remorseful for the incident. He added, "This young man works as a general manager in hospitality. He works with a brewery. His workmates he was out with made their own decision to go back to his flat, and he didn't want that, so he attempted to get there first. He made the foolish decision to get into his car and drive. There was a verbal altercation between him and the motorcyclist. He feared for his safety, and that's why he left the scene. The motorcyclist started to contact his work and post things on social media. He has to attend a disciplinary hearing at work. It was purely good fortune that the man was not injured or worse. I would hope to persuade you that a non-custodial disposal would be appropriate here given his lack of offending and remorse. He's in a position to pay a financial penalty. Sheriff Patricia Price told Mr McCann there was a difficult confrontation when the accident took place. The difficulty is, you at the age of 32 got behind the wheel of a car after drinking because you didn't want to wait on a taxi. This has now impacted your full life. However, you have good behaviour, and I don't expect to see you back in this court at any point. He was fined £1,350 and disqualified from driving for 16 months. An exclusive article written by Lauren Brownlee. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Lottery winners from a town near Glasgow celebrate. An article written by Esther Tarnay, reporter. Some residents of a town near Glasgow celebrated winning more than £360,000 with People's Postcode Lottery. The Wishaw neighbourhood has won a collective £7.9 million last week, which is the highest Scottish prize in the history of the lottery. It was announced that 6 people with the postcode ML2 OEN have become £368,461 richer. Winner Jean Moffat, a 74-year-old grandmother, said, "Wow, I can't believe it. I'm going to frame it and put it on the wall. It's amazing. I'm over the moon, absolutely over the moon. I'm going to help as many people as I can with it. My son across the road won, my cousin won, and my friend across the road also won. There's loads of people that I know that have won. The kids have been more excited than me. It's kids, they're always wanting something. I don't need big fancy things. I'll get a new oven. I went for one yesterday, but they weren't in stock. I can get the dearer one now. I bake all the time, so I'll need a new one. I'll still be happy with my fish suppers. I'll not be switching to caviar. I would have been happy with just 1,000. Anything above that is a bit of a miracle." Katrina Drummond, 47, who also received the cheque, said, "It's completely life-changing. It'll be enough to help out friends and family, and it'll hopefully keep me comfortable for a long time. My car broke down a couple of weeks ago, and it sat outside for a week with a dead battery, and I've got a few scrapes on it that I call racing stripes. It doesn't have air conditioning either because it's too expensive to fix." Along with the 6 winners, 5 people received £24,276, 76 people got £16,184, and 544 people became £8,092 richer. An article written by Esther Tarnay. Glasgow Times News on Monday the 28th of February. Scottish Government invests £60 million in electric buses. An article written by Tom Torrance. More than £60 million of public cash is being made available to replace almost 300 old diesel buses with new electric models. Transport Minister Jenny Gilruth announced the funding, the largest award of its kind in Scotland, was being made available through the government's Zero Emission Bus Challenge Fund. The money, which totals more than £62 million, will help bus firms replace 276 existing diesel vehicles with new battery-powered electric models and will also help with the costs of the necessary charging infrastructure. Meanwhile, with 137 of the new buses being built in Falkirk, the cash will help support green jobs in Scotland, as well as cutting emissions from transport and helping to tackle climate change. Ms Gilruth said, "We want more people to choose to travel by bus now and in the future, and to do so knowing that local buses are contributing to our climate change ambitions. Our Zero Emission Bus Challenge Fund is successfully decarbonising Scotland's bus fleet faster than ever before and making a significant contribution to our Mission Zero ambition for transport." The Minister added, "We're providing £62 million in a way which attracts additional private sector investment, resulting in 276 new zero-emission buses to be deployed across Scotland. 137 of these buses will be built in Falkirk, supporting skilled green manufacturing jobs and benefiting the Scottish economy." Cash from the first phase of the scheme is going to smaller bus operators and rural service providers, such as Houston's Coaches in Lockerbie. Owner William Houston said, "Here at Houston's we want to do our part to respond to the climate emergency and move to a zero-emission fleet. As a smaller local operator, it's been difficult for us to compete with larger operators and attract in financial support to help make the switch. The programme has helped us compete and enabled Houston's to invest in new zero-emission buses. I'm delighted that our customers will soon benefit from the modern conveniences of 4 new battery electric buses, which at the same time will improve air quality and help protect our environment." An article written by Tom Torrance.
Evening Times, February 28. Opinion. Glasgow Clyde College Scottish Apprenticeship Week shines a light on the important role apprenticeships. Apprenticeships can play a significant role in supporting Scotland's economic growth. The burgeoning skills gap is often cited as one of the blockers to economic development. So these workplace learning opportunities support our young people with the tools they need to join the modern workforce while helping to build a stable and strong economy for the future. Like a traditional apprenticeship, the modern apprenticeship programme encourages job retention with an inspiring 92% of apprentices staying in work once qualified. Scottish Apprenticeship Week starts and shines a light on the important role apprenticeships have on students, employers and the economy. On March 9, the college will be hosting an open day at our Annisland campus in which prospective students can speak with course supervisors and learn more about our modern apprenticeship programme, as well as all courses starting in August. Glasgow Clyde College prides itself on its strong links with industry and local businesses and is known for its excellent vocational training. Modern apprenticeships are a key area of focus for us, and we are continuing to promote, expand and develop training across the programme. Modern apprenticeship programmes are created and designed to help employers build a talented, highly skilled workforce who are ready to commit to work and bring with them fresh ideas and thinking, as well as an understanding of a company's ethos and values. They offer young people the opportunity to develop skills for the world of work by gaining on the job experience while studying, eventually allowing them to join the ever-growing career ladder with the right knowledge and skills required to excel. The college currently caters for a wide number of occupational sectors such as healthcare, engineering, construction and fashion, and continually expands to meet the needs of local industry. Our current employers include the likes of Rolls-Royce, Diageo, Agreco, NHS and Quarriers. We have also had a lot of interest from students wanting to work in the travel sector, and so more recently, we have also partnered with Barhead Travel. The programme offers our students the right opportunities in an industry that suits their strengths, preparing them for the world of work, and as a result offers life-changing experiences. And that is the role of the Glasgow Clyde College. Evening Times, February 28. Lifestyle Memories. Remembering Tommy Morgan, King of the Glasgow Patter. Report by Anne Fotheringham. Much admired and much loved Glasgow comedian, Tommy Morgan was born in Bridgeton in 1898, the son of a trades union activist. He became a huge music hall star in the 30s, 40s and 50s, starring in numerous pantos and shows across Scotland. Glasgow audiences loved his cheeky face and gallus chat, and he was often seen on stage at the likes of the Pavilion and the Metropole. Morgan's famous catchphrase was "Clarty, clarty," and his famous summer show at the Pavilion Theatre ran for 19 consecutive seasons. In his obituary in the Evening Times, the writer said, "His big beanie character will go down in Glasgow music hall history," referring to Big Beanie McBride, the GI bride. Other characters included the professional Won't Work declaring, "They're very good to you at the Maryhill Brew." Morgan's many showbiz protégés included Ruby Murray and Larry Marshall and Charlie Sim of the 1 O'Clock Gang, and he was loved by stars and audiences alike. One story went that the Andrews sisters, who were appearing at the nearby Empire, saw Morgan on stage at the Pavilion. Captivated, they laughed constantly, even if his Glasgow patter meant that they couldn't understand a single word he said. Morgan died in November 1958 at the age of 60, just 4 months after he had appeared in the Scottish Royal Variety performance. Scottish showbiz legend Jimmy Logan described him as a great institution in the Scottish theatre. After his funeral, Logan scattered his ashes from the Pavilion's roof. Speaking in 1991, Logan said he was asked to carry out the task by Tommy's widow. "It was a poor, blustery day," he said, "and we didn't want to hang about." Report by Anne Fotheringham.
From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of March 2022, from the news section, alternative giving plan to tackle begging to be relaunched in Glasgow. Article by Stuart Patterson. An alternative giving scheme to tackle street begging is to be relaunched in Glasgow. Street Change Glasgow was disrupted due to the pandemic and lockdowns affecting the number of people in the city centre. To date, since it was first started, around 1,600 donations have made, with 6,500 raised. Another £1,500 has been raised to the Street Change Glasgow Just Giving page. Another project, with the Best Bar None Award scheme, raised another £4,500, taking the total to £12,500. The total said the cash had been used to help 35 people. The idea is that although giving points in key city centre locations, people can donate money that is used to fund services to help people with homelessness issues. In a report to councillors, Alan Casey, chair of the Begging Strategy Steering Group, said, "A relaunch of Street Change Glasgow is planned by Simon Community Scotland to help improve the brand awareness, especially as a transition to post-recovery is anticipated. Opportunities to roll out Street Change Glasgow and any other transferable projects to local town centres will also be explored. There are concerns that the economic impact of the COVID pandemic could lead to more people suffering extreme hardship and could see more begging." Councillor Casey said, "Furthermore, recently emerging increases to general costs of living, including significant food and energy price hikes, only raise the chances of more individuals/households slipping below the poverty line." The Simon community has also noted it is seeing an increase in the number of clients who have lost housing because their job has ended. It has also been noted that while the numbers of rough sleepers in the city centre has been considerably lower since the pandemic started, there are new areas where people are sleeping rough. Councillor Casey said, "As part of the Safer City Centre work strand, intelligence gathering has identified city centre locations where street begging tends to take place. We've cited Hillerman's Umbrella, Argyle Street, Buchanan Street and Gordon Street. In addition, rough sleeping sites have also been recognised at St Vincent Street, Barclay Street and Glasgow Green. Out with the immediate city centre, further sites in the west and south of the city have also been identified. And that article is by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of March 2022, from the news section. Girls ran home and hid under table after being followed by creep in Glasgow's Govan Hill. This article is an exclusive by Lauren Brownlee. Two girls who were followed by a creep in Govan Hill were so scared they had ran home and hid under a table. Eric Tankos, 24, frightened the young teens after following them in Govan Hill Park and to one of their homes on March the 26th last year. He appeared in Glasgow Sheriff Court for sentencing after behaving in a threatening and abusive manner by following the victims for a prolonged period of time. Fiscal Deputy Monique Cooney said, at 6 p.m. on March the 25th, 2021, the two girls were within Cathkin Park. They observed the accused wearing a burgundy-coloured bomber jacket. They didn't think there was anything to be concerned about, but they noticed his appearance. At 4 p.m. on March the 26th, 2021, one of the girls arrived at her friend's home. They attended Govan Hill Park. Once within the park, both girls observed the accused again. He was wearing the same jacket. Initially, the girls stuck to the path which led around the perimeter of the park. He was initially situated near the middle of the park, and then he began walking towards the girls via the same park. The girls kept walking around the park, and he continued to follow them. They thought that they were being followed, so started to move towards the football pitch. The accused started staring at them. This lasted a prolonged period of time and made them feel uncomfortable. The victims, who were aged 14 at the time of the incident, left the park and made their way to Cathcart Road, where they entered a Spar store. They then spotted Tankos walking towards the same shop. Ms. Cooney added, as he entered the store, the girls informed an employee. Both left and the accused followed. Both were frightened and made their way towards one of their homes. They entered the house, locked the door and closed the windows and blinds. They noticed the accused had followed them. They hid under a table and contacted police. The girls contacted a witness who attended at the home. Officers also attended at the property, then chased Tankos within Govan Hill Park. He changed direction and made his way towards the exit of the park after seeing the officers. He was stopped, cautioned and charged, and made no reply. Tankos' lawyer explained that his client, who has a partner, had been at a friend's party and was highly intoxicated. He added, he was unaware that the females were minors, and he was hoping to socialise with them. He realised they would have been terrified of him, and he regrets his behaviour. He won't find himself in this position again, as he doesn't intend to get so intoxicated again. He has been in the UK since he was 13, and this is his first conviction. He is happy to comply with any order. Sheriff Vincent Lunny said the offence was quite sinister. He added, I'll go down the road of a structured deferred sentence, with the case to recall in 3 months to truly ensure this is a one-off. The social work will look at this behaviour and ensure it's never repeated. It will come back before me to decide a disposal. Tankos of Govan Hill will return to court in May. And that article is an exclusive by Lauren Brownlee. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of March 2022. From the news section. Glasgow teen who called his former friend a beast threatened to set fire to his home. Exclusive by Lauren Brownlee. A thug threatened to set fire to his former friend's home after calling him a beast and a murderer. The teenager, who cannot be named for legal reasons, was within his home on December the 1st, 2020, when he received a FaceTime call from Mickey Walsh, 19, at around 7 p.m. He answered it and recognised Walsh, who went on to shout, swear, and utter offensive and threatening remarks. Walsh appeared in Glasgow Sheriff Court for sentencing. Procurator Fiscal Deputy Monique Cooney said, the accused shouted through the phone, you're a rapist and a murderer, you're a beast. The complainer was upset by this. A witness who was in the other room could hear the shouting and went to investigate. The audio recorded the accused shouting. He continued to shout, "Your house is going on fire. Come to my house and I'll wrap a crutch around your head." The witnesses were concerned about their safety. At 8 p.m, police attended. At 9:50 p.m, police attended at the accused's address. He was found within. He was cautioned and charged but made no reply. Walsh's lawyer handed the sheriff a bit of paper and explained that the complainer has an unusual conviction. Sheriff Vincent Lunny looked at the note and replied, "It doesn't really excuse anything though." Walsh's defence solicitor said, "It doesn't, but there was a background." He responded in a completely immature fashion. Nothing has arisen since. He nearly died in October 2019 after taking contaminated street Valium. He was in hospital for around 6 months. He was in a coma for a period and now has mobility difficulties. He made a miraculous recovery. He was immobile for the first 3 months, but now walks with crutches. He has one outstanding matter which predates this offence. The offending has stopped. He was given a wake-up call following the incident with his health. It has simply put a brake on any other offending. He's not fit for unpaid work, but would comply with the restriction of liberty order. It's an unpleasant incident. Nasty things were said. A restriction of liberty order might serve its purpose in reminding him he can't carry on with this offending behaviour. Sheriff Lunny told Walsh, "This is a serious matter, regardless of what has been done. That's dealt with by the authorities, not you. These things can get out of hand. It's wholly inappropriate to threaten to burn someone's house down." Walsh was ordered to stay within his home in Parkhead between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. for 108 days. The sheriff added, "This is an opportunity to put it all behind you. If not, you're going to waste the rest of your life." And that article was an exclusive by Lauren Brownlee. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of March 2022, from the news section. Lawyers say Celtic must face up to its responsibilities over sex abuse class action. By Martin Williams. Lawyers representing survivors of sexual abuse who have been given the go-ahead for multi-million-pound class action style lawsuits against Celtic FC say the club must now face up to its responsibilities. Lord Arthurson has sanctioned the action by 22 former Celtic Boys Club players to launch a compensation claim against the Parkhead club. Celtic, which opposed the action, has previously said that it was appalled by any form of historic abuse, but maintained it was a separate entity to the Boys Club. The judge gave the ruling after advocate E. Mackay QC said the men who suffered abuse while playing for the Boys Club should be entitled to compensation. The players in the action say the club and the Boys Club were intimately connected to each other. Lord Atherton said, "Having considered parties' position on the supposed permission application, I am satisfied that the relevant criteria in granting this application has been established, and I can exercise my discretion to grant the application. The averments which pursuers offer to prove set out a background and respect that each was a player with Celtic BC when they were subject to sexual assaults, and when they were under the supervision and control of these individuals. The common issue in the proceedings is the question of the vicarious liability of the defenders for the actions of these individuals. The court accordingly grants the permission application. Group proceedings were introduced into the legal system in 2020. They allow groups of 2 or more people with the same or similar claims to raise a single action in the course of session. 4 men associated with Celtic or the Boys Club, including Jim Torbert and Frank Kearney. After the hearing, Patrick Maguire, a partner with Thompson Solicitors, who leads the legal team representing Celtic Boys Club abuse survivors, said, "The court has sent a clear message to Celtic FC that it will not countenance the club's continued efforts to engage delay tactics and hide behind legal technicalities. This is a watershed moment. Celtic must face up to their responsibilities and immediately begin meaningful discussions towards ensuring that every survivor receives full financial justice and compensation." Celtic said, "Given the ongoing legal proceedings, it is not appropriate for us to provide any comment. However, we would reiterate that the number in dealing with these sensitive matters in a responsible manner and in conjunction with its advisors. In 2020, Celtic stated they were appalled by historic child abuse and said they were very sorry it ever took place. It said it wanted to reiterate its sincere sympathy, regret and sorrow for those affected. The statement came after a sixth Celtic Boys Club coach was at the time thought to be at the centre of a new child abuse claim. In light of the recent speculation, and to seek to avoid any confusion, the club wishes to confirm its position regarding the historic abuse that took place at the Celtic Football Club and Celtic Boys Club, said the club. Celtic Football Club is appalled by any form of historic abuse and has great sympathy for those who suffered abuse and for their families. The club is very sorry that these events took place. The abuse of young people is an abhorrent crime. Unfortunately, it has affected many areas of society. With regard to the allegations regarding historic sex abuse at Celtic Boys Club, which so far we have been made aware relate to the period prior to 1997, although Celtic Football Club is a separate organisation, we take these extremely seriously because of the historic contacts between the two organisations. Police investigations were given support so as to seek to ensure that those individuals who abused young people were brought to justice. Representatives for the players taking the action said there was evidence which shows the Boys Club and Celtic were intimately connected. But representative for Celtic said that the action should not go forward, believing the club would not get a fair trial, as crucial documents relating to the relationship between the boys team and the club were missing. But Lord Arthurson said the issues were not so great as to force the action to halt. Kearney was jailed for 4 years in 2019 after being convicted of 9 charges of molesting young boys at football clubs he ran between 1965 and 1986. He was found to have abused the teens while running St Columba's Boys Guild in View Park, Lanarkshire, and the under-16 team at Celtic Boys Club. Kearney joined Celtic Boys Club in 1971 after being asked to run the youth side by legendary manager Jock Stein. In November 2018, Boys Club founder Jim Torbett was jailed for 6 years after being convicted of sexually abusing 3 boys over an 8-year period. Another coach and former Celtic Boys Club chairman, Gerald King, was convicted in December 2018 of abusing boys at a school and was given a 3-year probation order. Celtic Boys Club was founded by Torbett in 1966 with the permission of the then Celtic FC manager, the late Jock Stein, and former chairman Sir Robert Kelly. It was created as a separate entity from the football club, but this has been closely linked throughout its history and acted as a feeder group, producing a string of Celtic players including Roy Aitken, Paul McStay and Tommy Burns. In its 2020 statement, Celtic added, "The club has been at the leading edge in Scottish football, putting welfare and safeguarding protections in place for our young people, and continues to work with Scottish football to make it a safe place for young people." In summary, these are historic issues which the club is dealing with in a responsible manner and in conjunction with its advisors. The club reiterates its sincere sympathy, regret and sorrow for those affected. As we have said repeatedly, the club will stand by its responsibilities, respecting the due process of law. And that was a piece by Martin Williams. From the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of March 2022, from the news section. Parents launch petition over Lynn Park Adventure Playground in Glasgow, by Sarah Pacciaroni. Exhausted parents have launched a petition calling for a playground for kids with additional support needs, ASN, to reopen after they say it has been left to rot after COVID restrictions were lifted. The Lynn Park Adventure Playground in Glasgow is the only facility of its kind in the west of Scotland. The inclusive park has an outdoor area with wheelchair accessible swings and a roundabout, as well as an indoor space with a sensory room, soft play area and other activities catered to kids with ASN. Parents say it used to be the only safe space for their children to play freely and let off some steam, with families travelling from as far as Edinburgh to enjoy a day out. However, The building is still closed after 2 years from the start of the pandemic, and parents say the playground is neglected and dangerous. Newton Mearn's mum Liz Ireland, who has attended the playground for a decade, said her son Jamie, 12, has been robbed of a place he absolutely loved. She added, "I'm angry and disappointed, and my son deserves better. All the children who are not neurotypical deserve better." The kids with ASN are only allowed to play outside at the moment, in the face of neurotypical children being able to get back into soft plays and stuff. Liz, who works as a child development officer, has started a petition to fully reopen the venue and call for improvements, reaching nearly 1,500 signatures in a matter of days. She said in the 10 years she's been attending, the playground never had any significant repairs. On 5 occasions, she found it had to be closed because the sewage pipes were leaking into the kids' sandpits. She added, "Even pre-COVID, it was absolutely left to rot. It just feels like they haven't put a penny into this, and it's completely unfair." Glasgow Life, who runs the facility, said it is assessing the works required, and a phased reopening is planned from the start of this month. Yet this still causes problems to kids with ASN. Liz said, "The thing with that is that if you ask a child who's neurotypical to go in and use one part of the building and come out, that's okay. But we're talking about a child who has autism and very little communication or language. If you say to them, you can go in, but you can only use one room, they don't have the understanding to do that, and it's going to lead to meltdowns and hurting themselves. To me, it's just completely untenable." Eaglesham mum Natalie Chateau, who is a full-time carer to 3-year-old Jack, no longer wants to take her son to the playground. She said, "It used to be a safe haven for kids like him, but it's not the nicest of places anymore, and it's very messy and dirty. I wrote several times asking for refurbishments and never got a reply. I'm exhausted, sad and upset, because you already have to fight for everything for our kids, with it being the only park in the west of Scotland for children like my Jack. It's horrendous." Natalie agrees that a phased reopening of the building would not work for the kids. "My boy is non-verbal and has no understanding of language. He doesn't understand you can go here, but you can't go there. It would make him have meltdowns, so there's just no point in going if you have to restrict him to certain areas. So it's just making it more difficult for us to let them have the experiences and opportunities that they deserve." Barhead dad, Paul Dixon, said the playground was an absolute godsend for kids with ASN and parents alike. Paul, who works as a pharmaceutical representative, and his wife used to take twins Luke and Eva, 10, every Sunday. "My kids are both severely autistic, but they're not judged there. If one of them is having a meltdown, no one bats an eyelid because we've all been through it. They can be themselves, they can be confident, and parents get sympathy and support and can share stories and advice. We really miss it, particularly the kids who, like many children with autism, are very routine focused." Paul said the park is always packed at the weekend, and it is not uncommon to see families from all over the Central Belt, and he wishes for a full reopening and refurbishment. "It definitely needs some TLC as the facility has aged. Things like the disabled swings and roundabout, they look quite run down. But it needs to be fully reopened. These kids need space. A lot of them get overwhelmed, for example, if there are too many people in the sensory room. If I was to take my two, they would expect to be able to use it like they've historically done." Busby mum Linda Gall also relies on the playground as a safe space for her 7-year-old son Rory. "In most other playgrounds you're constantly on edge," she said. "You're constantly wondering where they are, always on guard. At Lynn Park you can relax and watch your kids play happily, and it also gives us parents a chance to meet up and support each other, which is so important." Brand manager Lindsay said Rory, who has Down syndrome, would also face some difficulties with the facilities being only partly accessible, and called for swift action to improve it. She added, "It's really sad that it's been sort of left to go to a state of disrepair. It's just a mess really. especially when it's for kids with additional needs who might not have a sense of the danger, so you don't want rusty areas or anything like that. 3-year-old Arlo has never been able to enjoy the playground as it has been closed since he had been old enough to use it, despite the family being based in nearby Stamperland. Dad Fraser McRae said having to take him to public parks has been a daunting experience as they are not suitable for kids with ASN. For us, it is the dangers of Arlo clambering over things that aren't really safe for him, and him getting upset at the noise and nature of children happily playing who do not have the same obstacles in life. The use of a sensory room like the one at Lynn Park would be simply incredible for Arlo. Resources like this for ASN children are few and far between, so they definitely need more investment. A spokesperson for Glasgow Life said, "We recognise that the facilities offered at Lynn Park Adventure Playground are highly valued by children and their families. The outdoor services, along with indoor toilets and changing facilities at the venue, reopened to the public in May 2021. We are currently assessing the works required to replace the fencing surrounding the facility, and we will keep customers informed of the expected timescale for the repairs to take place. Glasgow Life is also working to reopen the indoor services on a phased basis. The sensory room will reopen for free, bookable sessions from early March 2022. Thereafter, bookable activity sessions within the main hall will be made available, followed by the reintroduction of the soft play facility. Like all sectors, Glasgow Life has been experiencing challenges with the lead time for recruitment due to the impact of the pandemic, and increasing services at Lynn Park Adventure Playground is contingent on staff availability. As it has been throughout the pandemic, we remain committed to ensuring the health and safety of our staff and all users of Glasgow Life facilities. You can sign the petition online." And that was an article by Sarah Pacciaroni from the Glasgow Times, Wednesday the 2nd of March 2022, from the news section. "Thousands of Glasgow homes lying empty for 6 months," by Caroline Wilson. Glasgow has at least 2,659 properties which are listed as being empty for 6 months or more, new figures show. The council says empty homes are not only a wasted resource that could be used to address local housing needs, but can also become a blight on the community by attracting vandalism. It has brought back hundreds of vacant properties into use over the past few years, helping increase the availability of housing. The economic advantage to bringing an empty home back to productive use is clear. It costs between £6,000 and £25,000 to renovate an empty property, compared to an estimated cost of £120,000 to build a new home. The council says there are a number of reasons for houses becoming empty: mortgage defaults and repossessions, deceased or untraceable owners, property title issues, and properties which have fallen into a state of disrepair. Since 2019, 607 homes have been brought back into productive use by empty homes officers, EHO, working with owners, following the target of 200 to 250 homes per year, and a third officer has now been recruited. The council works alongside the Scottish Empty Homes Partnership, owners and other interested parties to achieve this. Actions to bring back homes into use falls under the 3 broad categories: selling the property, renting, or an occupation. Under the Housing Scotland Act 2010, local authorities can now use council tax records to identify vacant homes and bring them back into use, and a surcharge of up to 100% of council tax can be charged to owners of empty homes which are not being marketed for sale or rent. Glasgow is the only Scottish local authority which alerts homeowners prior to this application for the premium charge. Where there are instances where an owner cannot be traced or refuses to engage with the EHO, the council will consider the use of compulsory purchase order (CPO) powers. Any homes that are compulsorily purchased will be brought back into use for social rent. Since 2019, a total of 52 CPOs have been enforced, with 37 progressed or confirmed. With the remaining 15 properties, 13 have been acquired by the respective housing associations on a voluntary basis, and the remaining 2 properties have either been sold or occupied by family members. The council also operates a scheme which matches empty property homeowners who are trying to sell with people who are interested in buying. Councillor Kenny McLean, City Convener for Neighbourhoods, Housing and Public Realm at Glasgow City Council, said, "Our empty home strategy not only brings economic and environmental benefits to Glasgow, but also contributes to the regeneration of the communities across the city. The officers in the empty homes team provide a range of services to homeowners and those looking to bring empty homes back into use in Glasgow." Billy Christie Means, Vice Convener of the Neighbourhoods, Housing and Public Realm Committee, added, "I'm thrilled that Glasgow City Council has now recruited a 3rd empty homes officer since the budget was agreed last year. With demand for housing growing, rents increasing year on year, and housing waiting lists continue to rise, it's imperative that we make the most of the homes that already exist. This will benefit our communities and, given the small carbon cost of refurbishing an existing home compared to building a new one, it will benefit the environment too." And that article is by Caroline Wilson.
Evening Times, March 2. Opinion: the secret Glasgow taxi driver, proud to help, home and away. Too often, when people or organisations help causes far from home, the trolls come to the fore and very firmly insist we should be helping our own first and foremost. There is a sensible debate to be had there, and I'll never really disagree with the phrase charity begins at home. However, does there really have to be a choice? Helping at home and helping abroad, are these really 2 mutually exclusive options? Can't we do both? We can, and I'll give you 2 examples from just the last week with my Glasgow taxi hat on. 1. Helping at home. More than 20 of us Glasgow taxi drivers have now applied to receive and carry naloxone as part of the Scotland-wide initiative to reduce drug deaths. Drivers like me who apply to carry the opioid overdose reversal medication will have it in our cabs as we complete journeys in and around the city. Glasgow Taxis was one of the first companies to take a step forward and show support for this initiative, advertising our advocacy with an emblazoned cab that can be seen around the city, carrying the Stop the Deaths message. The joint initiative by the Scottish Government and Scottish Drugs Forum has also used TV and radio adverts and billboards at transport hubs and shopping centres to promote the message that drug deaths in Scotland are preventable. 2. Helping internationally. Following the grim situation in Ukraine, which has developed over the last 7 days or so, countless humanitarian relief charities have rightly acted swiftly to provide aid. One of those is our very own Glasgow the Caring City, who, as I type this, has a truck full of requested goods heading for the Poland-Ukraine border to help those fleeing the devastating scenes in their homeland. At the same time, a fundraising campaign has been launched so the charity can do more. That's justgiving.com/campaign/Glasgow 4 Crane. And it has reached out to Glasgow Taxis to seek our support locally as and when needed, should such help be needed at all. This support could be as simple as collecting aid from point A and taking it to point B prior to it heading overseas. Every little helps. Glasgow Taxis has stepped up to offer support, as we so often do, at both home and abroad. so it doesn't have to be a choice. We can always help our own and others at the same time. Stay safe, says the secret Glasgow taxi driver. Evening Times, March 2. Lifestyle, memories. When cult TV show Tutti Frutti rocked the pavilion. Report by Anne Fotheringham. It was 1986, and a new 6-part programme about a Glasgow band was about to hit the small screen. Tutti Frutti was a cult classic when it first aired, but it became one of Scotland's most loved TV hits thanks to its script by John Byrne and top-notch performances from the likes of Emma Thompson and Robbie Coltrane, both of whom were better known for comedy at the time. Byrne's dark, witty tale centred on the Majestics, a rock and roll band who are about to embark on their 25th anniversary tour when their lead singer dies in a freak car accident. Despite the death of Big Jazza, manager Eddie Clockerty is determined to recreate the Majestics' halcyon days. Clockerty, played by One Foot in the Grave star Richard Wilson, talks Big Jazza's younger brother Danny Coltrane into joining the band as its new lead singer. Susie Kettles Thompson, an old classmate of Danny, also joins as guitarist. Despite a calamitous tour of Scotland's less salubrious clubs and pubs, the band's fortunes appear to take a turn for the better, but a series of personal disasters and backstage squabbling threaten their bid to recapture their former glory. The cast includes Maurice Reeves as guitarist Vincent Diver and Katie Murray as the hilarious Miss Toner. It was Coltrane's big break. The Rutherglen-born star has since gone on to appear in everything from the Harry Potter movies as lovable Hogwarts gamekeeper Hagrid to psychological drama series Cracker. It was Tutti Frutti that put him on the map and earned him a BAFTA Best Actor nomination. The show was later made into a stage play toured by the National Theatre of Scotland in 2006, with Tom Ury in the lead role. Coltrane has previously told how double Oscar-winning actress Thompson almost missed out on her breakthrough as Kettles in the iconic series because she was seen as too posh and English. The show came back in 2019 when the new BBC Scotland channel repeated it in its entirety to the delight of fans. Another legendary local figure within the industry, Bill Bryden, who died recently, was also involved behind the scenes. There was also a successful LP released with all the songs from the show. Report by Anne Fotheringham.
And that was this week's Glasgow Times News podcast, normally recorded in our studio at the Bishopbriggs Media Centre, currently recorded from our volunteers' homes with the publisher's kind permission. Thanks for listening.